Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
It was a sunny day. Birds were singing in Konoha, the sun was at its zenith. Shinobi were running on the roofs of houses to take or hand in a report on the completed mission. Civilians were shopping, mothers were walking with their children on playgrounds. Jiraiya, as always, was spying on the girls near the baths, so to speak, gathering information. Yeah. Information about naked Konoha girls is very important for every shinobi of all villages. Tsunade worked in a hospital, and she had many patients. Both common people and shinobi. Some were injured on a mission, some during training. There were also fatalities among the seriously injured. Different cases. Some just had a broken arm, and some simply had no arm. What to do, who to contact? Of course, Tsunade Senju. It's not for nothing that she is the best medic in the world. There are many different clans in Konoha. But I will only talk about a few of them. We will talk about clans such as Uzumaki, Uchiha, and Hyuga. The head of the Uzumaki clan is Kushina Uzumaki, and concurrently the wife of the Hokage, Minato Namikaze. This woman is considered the most beautiful in the village hidden in the foliage. The distinguishing feature of all Uzumaki was fiery red hair, and Kushina had the longest in Konoha. It reached her heels. Minato constantly told his dear wife that he simply adored her beautiful hair. Let's describe Minato himself. Handsome blonde. Appearance and body of Apollo. Yellow hair, blue eyes, in which women simply drowned and did not float up. In general, the first handsome man in the village, and even Hokage, but his heart was occupied only by Kushina Uzumaki and his family. He and Kushina had two beautiful children. Naruto and Menma. Naruto was a boy, and Menma was a girl. The age difference was insignificant, only 5 years, but in strength it was enormous. If Menma had just entered the ninja academy, then Naruto was already a jonin and served in ANBU as the captain of not a squad, but an entire battalion. No one knew how he achieved such strength, but it was a fact. Naruto could easily resist his father in sparring. The eldest son possessed dojutsu. This was a secret, and only Naruto's personal ANBU battalion and his parents knew this secret. They did not tell his sister this, fearing that while she was little, information could easily be extorted from her. Naruto and Minato, with the help of the head of the Uchiha clan and his eldest daughter, developed these eyes. The legendary Sanins, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru also joined the training. The eldest daughter of the head of the Uchiha clan once brought her good friend Uchiha Shisui to training. He was a young handsome guy. He had both a regular Sharingan with 3 Tomo and a Mangekyo Sharingan. He called it Koto Amatsukami. Itachi. That was the name of Fugaku Uchiha's eldest daughter. She was an exact copy of her mother, just like Menma and Kushina. Itachi had black hair and onyx eyes, a Sharingan like Shisui, only she had a different Mangekyo, and she could summon Amaterasu, an all-consuming flame that burns for 7 days and 7 nights, and Shisui could not summon this fire. But everyone had the ability to summon Susanoo. This is a ghostly warrior. Each member of the Uchiha clan looked different. It was something like a guardian angel. However, out of the strongest clan of Konoha, only 2 had the Mangekyo Sharingan. These were Itachi and Shisui. Itachi had a younger brother, Menma's age, Sasuke. He was a small and very cute boy. At the academy, all the girls were hanging on him, but he secretly looked only at Naruto's younger sister, just like Itachi did at the blonde himself. Only during training did she realize that she loved this serious boy. She even joined his battalion and became a step below her beloved. Naruto noticed Itachi's sympathy and how she looked at him. He also understood that he liked her, but was in no hurry to take action towards her. Let me tell you a little about the abilities of Naruto's eyes. They looked like this, all red, with ripples coming from the pupil. 6 circles and a total of 9 tomo on them. As Naruto read, these eyes belonged to the god of the shinobi world himself. Or to be more precise, to the Rikudo Sennin himself. With these eyes, Naruto could summon both Amaterasu and Susanoo, but he could not immerse himself in the most powerful illusion of the Uchiha clan, Tsukiyomi. But this is not a problem. Even without this technique, he imposed illusions that even Itachi could not remove. He could also use regular Rinnegan techniques. Shinra Tensei, Chibaku Tensei, Banshu Tenin. All 6 paths of Rinnegan. He could only summon 6 clones, in which he placed the souls of the samsara wheel. Chikushido summoned animals to help him in battle, who also possess this cursed Rinnegan. Ninjendo is a Rinnegan ability that allows the user to read minds and extract the souls of their victims. Shirato is a Rinnegan ability that allows the user to transform their body into a cyborg with additional weapons and limbs. Tendo is a Rinnegan ability that allows the user to manipulate gravity, often with Naruto himself acting as this ability. Gakido is one of the abilities of the Rinnegan that allows the user to absorb chakra. Geto is one of the abilities of the Rinnegan, allowing the user to resurrect the dead and control corpses like puppets. However, Naruto only uses it in extreme cases. Jigakudo is one of the abilities of the Rinnegan, which allows the user to use a mythical creature, with which he can restore damaged body parts and interrogate people. To do this, he does not use his own body. The user summons the head of a statue surrounded by flames. The statue's eyes contain the Rinnegan, thanks to which it shares a common field of vision with the summoner. Please forgive me. I was too lazy to describe everything myself, so I took all the information from the Narutopedia website. Well then. We have now described all the abilities of these 2 clans, let's move on to the third. The Hyuga clan. They, like the Uchiha, possessed a dojutsu, or more precisely, the Byakugan, the Hyuga clan's Kekkei Genkai. The activated Byakugan gives the ninja a heightened sense of perception, allowing them to see through various obstacles and create a viewing angle of almost 360 degrees, except for a blind spot located at the back of the neck near the 3rd thoracic vertebra. Another feature of the Byakugan is its long-range action. However, the Byakugan cannot see through some obstacles. The third feature of this dojutsu is the ability to see chakra, as well as its circulation system inside another body. Again Narutopedia. This will not happen again. Probably. Smiley face. The Hyuga clan is very proud and arrogant. Many dislike it, but they are afraid to speak openly, because it is numerous and strong. Only the Uchiha and the Uzumaki Namikaze family are not afraid of it, since for its complete destruction either one Naruto, or his battalion, or Amaterasu from Itachi and Shisui, or one Minato with his Flight of the Thunder God will be enough. By the way, Naruto now also owns this technique, since his eyes can copy techniques, so he knew more than 1,000 of them. Even Kakashi with his transplanted Sharingan nervously smokes on the sidelines. It's just that something has become unsettled in the Hyuga clan lately. As it turned out, they were preparing a rebellion. They wanted to change the government and put their man, namely Hayashi Hyuga, in the Hokage's place, since he was the head of the clan. This is what the Sanins, the head of the Uchiha clan, Naruto's family without Menma, still young, and the elders were talking about in the Hokage's office. They were deciding the fate of the Hyuga clan. I suggest we listen to their conditions. We can't cut out the entire clan. It would be unfair, Minato and Jiraiya were shouting. But no one was listening to them. Neither in the office nor outside it. Kushina had set up a barrier. Minato, understand that if you don't do something about them, they will replace you or kill you. They have enough money and connections in the stone, and they can ask for help from it, and you know how much the stone loves you. They will not skimp and will kill your entire family. Is that what you want? Danzo blurted out. This old man headed the Root organization. They were also ANBU. Only under the leadership of this elder. Okay. I agree. Minato understood the seriousness of the situation. But who will be the executor? The blonde had already regretted that question 100 times. Shimura smiled crookedly and looked at Naruto. I propose Uzumaki Naruto as the executioner for the Hyuga clan. And this is not up for discussion. Danzo had a plan. As soon as Naruto slaughtered the entire Hyuga clan, he would declare the Hokage's eldest son a traitor and take him to the Root, and there he would transplant his eyes and become Hokage. But the old man underestimated the blonde's strength. This was his terrible mistake. What? No. 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 I don't allow it. How come? Why Naruto? Kushina's eyes started to water. She didn't understand. She had only one question: why Naruto? She didn't want to let him on this mission. As a mother, she didn't want it. Minato was furious. Why Naruto? Why him? What was that old fool Danzo planning? I won't allow it. Am I Hokage or what? No. It won't happen. No, period. Danzo. I will not allow. You have no right to do this. The latter only smiled wryly and reached into his kimono. Everyone tensed up. After all, who knows what kind of cockroaches are in the head of the ruler of the root? And their worries only intensified when they read the scroll with the signature of the feudal lord of the Land of Fire. He gave the go-ahead to use Naruto in this mission. There was such a roar in the office that Naruto was surprised they hadn't gone deaf from yelling at each other. This went on for 5 minutes, and the blonde realized that if it continued like this, he would soon go deaf himself. Naruto released half of his chakra. Everyone immediately felt sick, but they hid it behind masks of indifference. There was no surprise, since they all knew how powerful Naruto's chakra was. Okay. That's enough. I'm tired of this. Danzo, do you want me to wipe out the Hyuga clan? The guy looked at the old man with a bandaged right eye. He just nodded, and that was it. Naruto stopped the chakra pressure, seeing that Itachi and Shisui would soon lose consciousness. Okay. When should I start? Shimura smiled wryly again and said. Immediately. Go and don't waste time. Just sign these papers. Danzo handed Naruto the folder where the task was. And yes, I forgot to say. After this mission, you automatically become a missing mean of SS++ rank. Do you agree? Naruto hesitated for a moment. He looked at everyone present. They were all looking at the blonde with surprise. It was understandable. Naruto was only 15, and he had already agreed to wipe out an entire clan by himself. Naruto's mother looked at him with tears in her eyes. She shook her head from side to side, as if to tell him, no, please don't sign this. Minato looked at his son with a disbelieving look. SS++ rank missing mean. That's a level higher than Kage. Only Madara and Hashirama had such ranks, and here was his 15-year-old son. How so? The Sannin couldn't believe their ears either. How could this be? Sending the Hokage's son on such a mission. It was such a blow to his reputation. They especially didn't like the order to enroll Naruto as a missing mean, although that was understandable. To slaughter the entire Hyuga clan. He may be arrogant, but they are still people. Okay, Naruto. Get started right away, Danzo barked and disappeared. The office was filled with deathly silence. Then Itachi and Shisui decided to take the floor. Naruto. We're going with you. I don't want you to take this burden on yourself. We're best friends, after all, she said the last word with some disappointment. Yes, Naruto. We won't let you go alone, Itachi echoed Shisui. Fugaku looked at his daughter as if she was crazy. He didn't really want his eldest daughter to become a missing mean. The situation was saved by Minato, who came up with an idea of how to deal with this situation. He smiled and clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. I have a plan. Everyone who was present in the cabin at that moment looked at their Hokage with hope. In their eyes there was hope for a better situation than the one they had now. So, I have come up with a plan. It consists of destroying the Akatsuki organization and reviving the long-lost village of Whirlpool. After these words, Kushina was overcome with memories of her native village. How she played with other children, how she communicated with her mother and father. Tears involuntarily began to flow from her eyes again, but she quickly came to her senses and, brushing them away, began to listen attentively to her husband's plan. So, Minato was broadcasting his brilliant idea. You, Naruto, with Itachi and Shisui, will eliminate the Hyuga clan tonight. Minato was interrupted. It was Itachi's father. Stop, stop, stop. Itachi will not eliminate anyone. She is my daughter, and I cannot forbid Shisui from carrying out this mission. Fugaku looked at Itachi, and then at his best friend. Itachi did not like her father's statement, and she was forced to repeat the phrase she had said earlier. Dad. I'll go with Naruto. He's dear to me. I love him. After the phrase that escaped, there was such silence in the office that you could hear everyone in the room breathing. Itachi covered her face with her hands and blushed deeply. She didn't expect that she would blurt that out. Oh my god. How embarrassing. Everyone, except Naruto, who guessed about Itachi's feelings, looked in surprise at the girl, then at Naruto. What did you just say? Fugaku looked at his daughter seriously. Repeat. I love Naruto. Itachi blushed even more, because she repeated it again. Fugaku could not believe it. Kushina stood and, having forgotten about the upcoming mission of her eldest son, was all beaming and probably already thinking about how she would babysit little Sharingan babies. Tsunade's thoughts were almost similar to Kushina's, only she was not really burning to babysit little kids. Jiraiya was just happy for his godson, as was Minato, and Orochimaru, he was Orochimaru. He didn't give a damn who was in love with whom. Me too, everyone looked at Naruto. Itachi didn't understand the meaning of what was said, but the adults seemed to have guessed what was going to be discussed now. Itachi, I love you too. I'm sorry I didn't tell you this earlier, I just couldn't figure it out myself. I know this isn't the best time, but I'll repeat myself. Itachi, I love you too. Naruto came up close to the girl and lifted her face with his index finger by her chin. The Uchiha was shorter than Naruto by half a head. Everyone, except Orochimaru, of course, held their breath in anticipation of the blonde's next move. It didn't take long, and the next moment Naruto covered the Uchiha's lips with his own. It was the first kiss for both Uzumaki and Itachi. Fugaku opened his mouth in surprise, and Shursui had to close it, otherwise the head of the clan would lose that part of his face. Shursui had long guessed about the feelings of these two, but decided not to interfere, let them figure it out themselves. Otherwise he would screw something up, and then he would get it for it, and Itachi has a heavy hand. The Uzumaki couple were beaming. Kushina was ready to cry. Her son, a little boy, little, right. He's 16 and he's the captain of an ANBU battalion. A boy with blood on his hands up to his elbows. Well, fuck, that's Kushina, what can you expect, had just kissed the girl he loved. Oh my god. Minato was more reserved and simply laughed at the sight of the elder Uchiha. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about the plan. But then, tearing himself away from Itachi's sweet lips, Naruto looked at his father. He, understanding everything without words, cleared his throat to attract attention and continued speaking. So, Itachi, Naruto, and Shursui are going to carry out this mission. Fugaku, you let her go to carry out this task. Itachi will always be under the protection of Naruto and Shursui, so nothing will happen to her, and besides, she is a pretty strong shinobi. The head of the Uchiha clan only sighed heavily and looked at his daughter. Although he always wore his icy iceberg mask, in his soul, deep in his soul, he was very worried about his family and friends. He had already imagined how Makoto would rape his brains about this. But it was not too late to explain everything to her, and he figured out how. Okay, but on one condition, no, two, everyone looked at him. What conditions? Itachi asked. She had already prepared herself for the worst, but her expectations were not met. Although no, what Fugaku said scared Itachi a lot, no, not by the fulfillment, but by the consequences, at least partly. I'll let you go only if you explain everything to your mother yourself. That's one. And two. You'll have to send us news every 2 weeks. Itachi sighed heavily in anticipation of talking to her mother. And yes, Naruto, Shursui, if anything happens to my daughter, I'll. Yes, we understand. Shursui said. He didn't want to incur the demon's wrath. No. That demon wasn't Fugaku, it was Makoto. She was always too worried about Itachi, and Fugaku about her son, but they loved both children equally. Okay. Now Itachi and Fugaku are going to court, that is, to Makoto, and Naruto, Kushina and I are going home. We still need to say goodbye to Menma, and that means screams, squeals, tears, snot. With each word Minato became sadder and sadder, realizing that his brain would be fucked out more than once today. Everyone went home. As expected, there were screams, tears, snot, squeals from the female half of the families. Only, Shursui was an orphan, so he just sat at home and prepared for the mission. The ANBU were given an hour to prepare. Minato explained that they would be pursued by several ANBU squads. Naruto and his partners would need to quickly escape or simply knock out all of their pursuers. So, it's time to carry out the mission. Since it was the Hyuga clan, and therefore it was the Byakugan, they couldn't get in there unnoticed. They had to go straight ahead. 2100 hours, evening. An explosion thundered over Konoha. Since the sun had not yet completely set, people saw the huge silhouette of Susanoo near the Hyuga quarter. The residents will remember this night for a long time. Forest, near Tengu City. 1 year after the destruction of the Hyuga clan. Naruto's POV. A year has passed since Itachi, Shursui, and I destroyed the Hyuga clan. Almost destroyed it. I hid one person. It was a little girl. She was the same age as my sister. For a second I saw Menma in her. I didn't have the heart to kill her. Itachi and Shursui don't know about this, and I'm not going to tell them. Let it be my secret. We destroyed the clan very quickly. In 10 minutes. There was just one setup I didn't expect. Flashback. A year ago. Village hidden in the leaves. Mission to exterminate the Hyuga clan. The last moments before leaving the village. Naruto stands still and looks at the person. It was a little girl, about the same age as Naruto's sister, Menma. Our blonde simply couldn't raise his hand to her. He stood and looked at her, and the girl peered into Naruto's dojutsu. Tears were streaming from her eyes. Only one question was spinning in the girl's head. For what? For what? Why our clan? Mom. She's dead. Dad is dead. Her entire family is dead. They destroyed the once great Hyuga clan in some 10 minutes. The girl was still young, and she was not allowed to attend clan meetings. Even though she was from the main branch and the daughter of the clan head, she was not allowed to attend such a privilege as a clan meeting. The girl kept standing and looking at the blonde. She may have imagined it, but tears started streaming from Naruto's eyes, but he quickly stopped them. In ANBU, they teach you to control all your emotions. Naruto knelt down in front of the girl and hugged her. She did not resist, as she had almost no strength. The girl barely stood on her feet, struggling with fainting. Naruto whispered in the girl's ear. Forgive me, please. After these words the girl fell into a saving faint. Naruto did not want her to die either, and quickly moved to the hospital and laid her on a free bed in some ward, and then moved to the ruins of the clan. There he saw Itachi and Shursui running towards him. There were no injuries on them. Susanoo worked properly. It was not for nothing that it was called the best defense of the Uchiha clan. The partners ran up to the blonde. Naruto, how are you? Itachi asked worriedly. It's okay, no need to worry, and you? Are you injured? Naruto knew the answer to the question, but asked, purely out of politeness. Yes, we're fine. Shursui was as positive as always, despite the fact that he had slaughtered a third of the entire clan. So, are we leaving? Itachi looked towards her former home. She clearly understood that she might not return here. Shursui and Naruto understood this too, but they just had to accept it. Now this trio are missing Nin. At any meeting with Konoha shinobi, they will try to capture them at best, and at worst, they can be killed, but they are strong. Naruto's rank is generally close to Kage. They are not in any danger. Suddenly, the sound of many feet was heard. Naruto and his friends were surrounded by a squad of ANBU. Itachi and Shursui were a little scared. Everything was not going according to plan. But Naruto stood calm as a boa constrictor. Naruto, what's going on? Itachi asked in a whisper. Your father didn't say that his ANBU would interfere with us. This is not according to plan at all. This is not what we agreed on. And this is not my father's ANBU. This is Root, the blonde frowned. He didn't like this turn of events either. Not in the best direction. Shursui frowned deeply. He already understood why Root was here. Danzo had been hunting for Naruto and Shursui's eyes for a long time. He simply couldn't wait to take these eyes. The company was surrounded by about 50 fighters, and most likely they were the best in Korn. They were all standing in combat positions. The Uchiha's eyes were already glowing with the Sharingan, and Naruto activated his ultimate Rinnegan. Itachi turned her head slightly and asked Uzumaki. "Naruto, what are we going to do?" "We'll find out now." "Danzo, come out," the blonde ordered. He. Danzo stood in front of his fighters and grinned wryly. "That's it. So, as the elder of the Hidden Leaf Village, I declare you missing Nin. You are never to appear in the village again. You will be entered into the ANBU bingo book, and a hunt will be declared for your heads. Now, ANBU, kill them." End of flashback. Then I killed them all. Every single one. I put Danzo in an illusion and kept him there for about a year. After Tsukiyomi, he won't be the same as before. He's just a shell now, without any awareness of his actions. He's gone crazy. As far as I know, he was hospitalized. At first we were nomads, but soon Itachi got a little pissed, destroying half the forest where we stopped for the night. Then Shursui and I realized that if we didn't find a permanent place to live, she would simply kill us. Itachi and I had been a couple for about 2 months already, and during that time I realized that it was better not to anger her. She would kill us and not notice. That's when Shursui and I built a house. It was smaller than my parents' house, but it was still very big. We didn't want to go to Yuzushio, it was a collective decision. The Sannin visited us occasionally, once even Fugaku with Mikoto and my parents came, but without my sister. This upset me. Itachi was in the same situation. Her parents didn't take Sasuke with them. They didn't say anything to those 2 little ones at all. No, of course they said that the 3 of us killed the entire Hyuga clan and became missing Nin. Our parents sent us money. We didn't go hungry. Each of us carried out different missions, but the black market was still there. While guarding caravans, there were criminals who had a bounty on the black market. Shursui recently found himself a girlfriend. He went to the city for food, and there some squad of renegade ninja tried to rob, rape and kill her. Even though the girl was a kunoichi, she couldn't stand up to 15 people. Shursui appeared in the middle of the fight and killed all the criminals. He handed 2 of them over to the market and offered the girl to go with him. She agreed. As it turned out, her parents died, and she was left an orphan. They bought food together and came to our house. I was surprised when I saw the girl next to Shursui. We are, like, missing Nin, and they are hunting us. Oh well. Shursui said that he would train Sora. In general, the girl was very beautiful. Her facial features resembled those of the Uchiha. Once she was asked about this, and she said that in her family there was one woman from the Uchiha, or rather her grandmother, but she did not have the Sharingan. Another difference from the clan of the Sharinganists was that she had beautiful green eyes, and not, like all the Uchiha, black. But she had long black hair. In short, our blockhead fell in love with her irrevocably, as well as she with him. Itachi and Sora quickly became friends and found a common language. Now they were good friends. So about 3 months passed. The 4 of us lived. Me with Itachi and Shursui with Sora. We slept in different rooms. As I said, Itachi was with me and that couple. I sent a couple of clones to Yuzushio. They didn't come back empty-handed. They brought back many scrolls with techniques, different weapons. They even got some money. As Shursui said, he started training Sora. She turned out to be a good medic and taught this art to Itachi as well. The training went well. Itachi and I didn't lag behind them either. We all trained using the scrolls that my clones brought. Not everyone could do the techniques described in the scrolls. Not enough chakra. I was in first place in terms of chakra volume, followed by Shursui, and the girls shared third place. We lived peacefully, but we didn't forget about our mission. Akatsuki. We had to stop their actions at any cost. As the saying goes, the hunter always catches the beast. It was a clear day. I woke up before Itachi. I always got up before her. She was sleeping on my arm, pressing her whole body against me. I carefully took my arm out so as not to wake her, and laid Itachi's head on the pillow. I think I should describe our room. A spacious room, a large and soft bed. On either side of the bed were nightstands, and on them were small lamps. I really liked to read before going to bed. A large window on the wall next to the bed. Now it was wide open and fresh air was coming into the room through it. Yesterday we specially opened the window to air the room, since we were planning a hot night. In general, Itachi really liked such exercises at night, as did Sora. Shursui and I sometimes even knocked each other out so that the two devils, as we called them, would not bother us. There was a large sliding wardrobe in the room. Our shinobi uniforms were stored there, as well as regular clothes. There was a beautiful inyan carpet on the floor. Just like Itachi and I, blonde and brunette. Opposites attract. I really liked where we lived. The forest, fresh air, animals nearby, birds singing. Beauty. Fresh and warm air, almost no rain. We arranged a clearing for training grounds near the house. We trained there. I put the Uzumaki clan barrier on the training ground. This barrier automatically takes nature chakra and restores the training ground to the state it was placed on. For example, make a crater, the barrier will remove it. The earth will simply gather together, molecule by molecule. I went down to the first floor. There were 2 floors in our house. The first was equipped with a kitchen, living room and dining room. On the second there were 3 rooms, originally intended for me, Itachi and Shursui. But now we live in 2 of them. Also on the second floor there was a toilet with a bath and a beautiful balcony facing the street. I put the kettle on the stove, and then the frying pan. Of all of us, only the girls knew how to cook well, and while they were sleeping and hungry, there was no choice. Luckily, I knew how to make a sandwich, and that was good. I didn't really bother with that. Shursui knew how to cook, too. I was the only idiot among them. Fuck. A couple of minutes later, the kettle boiled. I brewed myself some green tea and made a sandwich. Shursui jumped up at the sound of the kettle, waking up the girls, too, although they were almost awake anyway. He quickly got dressed and stomped into the kitchen, wanting to swallow something, but then a bummer awaited him. It wasn't Itachi in the kitchen, who usually cooked breakfast while I was warming up, but me. "Oh, hey Naruto, how did you sleep?" Shursui asked, smiling, and plopped down at the table. I stood up and poured 3 more mugs of tea, as I felt the girls already going down the stairs to the kitchen. "Okay, and you?" I sat back down at the table and continued drinking tea. "Excellent." The brunette stretched and took a mug of tea. "Again?" I asked, raising an eyebrow gracefully. "Yes. Again. But that was something. Sora is learning by leaps and bounds. Her blowjob was just awesome." Shursui smiled like a Cheshire cat. "Heh. Itachi is also a bomb. And she can do no less than Sora, if not more," I grinned. Shursui was just about to answer me, when the girls came into the kitchen. We both shut up and handed our girlfriends a cup of tea. They also came up to us in unison and kissed each of us on the lips. We went into the dining room with dishes of scrambled eggs, which Itachi had kindly prepared. "Well, what are we going to do today, dear Nuknin?" Sora asked, smiling. "I think," but Shursui was interrupted by a knock on the door. We all turned around. I was wary. Everyone who knows that we live here usually sends a message using a reverse summoning. And then this. I stood up and activated my dojutsu, took out the katana that my father gave me and went to the door. When I opened it, I saw 3 people on the threshold, dressed in black cloaks with red clouds. Among them was a blue-haired girl, a blonde with bangs covering his left eye, and a red-haired man with many piercings on his face. "Uzumaki Naruto?" asked the red-haired boy. "Yes." "What do you want?" I gripped the katana tighter. "We have come to invite you to our organization." "Akatsuki." "Uzumaki Naruto?" asked the red-haired boy. "Yes." "What do you want?" Naruto gripped the katana tighter. "We have come to invite you to our organization." "Akatsuki." Naruto stood and simply looked into the red-haired man's face, as he did into him. Then Naruto simply stepped back from the threshold of the house and invited everyone to come in. The Akatsuki were surprised by this proposal, but still went into the house. 2 months later. Pain's POV. Just recently I received information from Zetsu that 3 people escaped from Konoha a year ago, and not just anyone, but Naruto Uzumaki himself, the son of the Yellow Lightning or the 4th Hokage, Uchiha Itachi, the eldest daughter of the head of the Uchiha clan, who was nicknamed a genius in her village, and Uchiha Shisui, the owner of the most dangerous Mangekyo Sharingan in the history of the Uchiha, with the exception of Madara. I immediately had the idea to recruit them into our ranks. Decided. I will personally go after them. Well, maybe I'll take Conan and Deidara with me. We'll get there faster with the blonde. A month has passed since I received information from Zetsu about the 3 fugitives from Konoha. I am currently sitting at my desk in my office, thinking about a conversation with these 3. A god cannot lose face in front of some humans. The conversation plan has been devised and must be put into action. I made a concentration sign and summoned Conan and Deidara. Should I describe them? Let me describe them. Conan. This girl has been with me since the 3rd Shinobi World War. Back then, our village was the battlefield for the great villages. Rain was a small and insignificant village compared to the 5 great nations. That's when Conan found me. I was lying on the ground with my dog, which I found near one of the houses. I felt sorry for it, and I took the dog with me. After walking for several hours, I fell on the damp and muddy ground from exhaustion. I wanted to eat and drink. I almost fainted when I saw someone approach me and hold out a piece of bread. Without thinking, I grabbed it without even looking at the person, and tore it into 2 equal halves. I ate one myself, and I shared the other with the dog. He was also very exhausted. There was no one to take care of him. After a small snack, I looked at the person who gave me the life-saving food. It was a girl my age with blue hair and beautiful brown eyes. She gave me her hand and helped me stand up. A sweet smile played on her face. I couldn't help but admire her, but only for 5 seconds. At my short pause, she only giggled and took my hand, dragging me somewhere. After a short period of time we came to a cave where there was a lot of food, clothes, and drinking water. In the middle of the cave, sitting on a box, a boy with red hair was eating bread. He raised his eyes to the newcomers and looked at me with displeasure. Conan, who is this and what is he doing here? The boy said in a less than friendly tone. Yahiko, this is Nagato. Conan and I met on the way to the cave. He was lying on the ground, and I was scared for him. I went up to him and gave him some bread. Let him live with us. After all, 3 is more fun, and look at his little dog. I fished the dog out of my bosom and showed it to Yahiko. He came up and looked at us with a stern gaze. We played a staring contest for about half a minute, but then a joyful smile blossomed on the red-haired man's face. He stroked the dog and extended his hand to shake mine. My name is Yahiko, and what's yours? The boy asked with a smile on his face. Nagato, I mumbled quietly. Nice to meet you, Nagato. Me too. Our further fate was not the best. There were joyful moments, but there was more pain and suffering. Much more. The happiest memory is how we lived with Jiraiya-sensei. He became like a father to us. But after 3 years, he was forced to leave us. A year later, Yahiko died, and that's when that strange man in the orange spiral mask picked us up. He suggested creating the Akatsuki organization. As he explained, I would become its leader, and the organization itself would catch the Biju and seal them in the Gedo statue. After catching all 9, it would be possible to resurrect the Jubi and plunge the world into the eternal Tsukuyami. That would be an ideal world without wars. I forgot to describe Conan, who has already grown up. A pretty girl, whom Haydn constantly tries to hit on, but she constantly breaks his hopes. The girl herself has grown up very beautiful, a slender athletic body, 4th-size breasts, short shoulder-length blue hair with a paper rose on her head. Conan has an unknown origami jutsu. She can disintegrate into small pieces of paper, grow wings out of paper. In general, she does whatever she wants with paper. Deidara Tsukuri. I don't know much about him, but I can say one thing for sure. He looks a lot like a girl. Not very tall, blonde with long wheat-colored hair. Long bangs cover his left eye. He constantly shouts about his art. And as he says, art is an explosion. Cats. Well, then go and collect what's left of the victim during numerous explosions. So he is a valuable ally. The owner of a genome called Bakutun. The genome of explosions. Now these two are standing right in front of me. I got up from the table and went to the door. They followed me. We walked to the exit of the cave. On the way, I yelled at Zetsu for dragging another corpse and eating it at the table. Toby yelled again that he was a good boy. He was fucking annoying me. Hayden swore again. There are several adequate people in Akatsuki. Me, Conan, Sasori and maybe Kakuzu and Kisame, but the latter are also a bit crazy. One is into money, the other is into his sword. We went outside. I walked down the slope and stopped there. Deidara and Conan came up to me. Day started the conversation first. Leader, why did you call me? And you couldn't say this in the office? The impudent blonde. Very impudent. I called you here so that. I was interrupted again, only this time it was Conan. I can forgive her almost everything. Pain-sama, please, without your speeches. Get to the point. Well, at least she addressed me politely. Deidara only nodded his head. I was surprised that it didn't fall off. Okay. In short, I found new members for our organization. I began to expect questions. And who are they? Conan. What do you know about the three missing me named Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Itachi, and Uchiha Shisui? I asked. Oh. I know them, Deidara squealed, jumping on the spot. And how can such a fool like him be such a strong shinobi? I don't understand. They are the ones who ran away from their village, while slaughtering the entire Hyuga clan. That's right, I nodded my head. It's them that we're now going to recruit into our organization. What if they don't want to? Conan asked emotionlessly, looking straight at me. They won't be able to resist God, I said. Deidara, create a bird and follow my instructions. We must get to them as quickly as possible. What's the rush, Leader Sama? Oh my God. Deidara, don't ask unnecessary questions. Just create a bird, I almost shouted at him. Although I myself did not understand why I was so drawn to him. Okay. I'll create it now. Well, finally. The blonde put his hand in the pouch and fished out a small piece of clay. His mouth on his hand swallowed the white substance. I was always amazed by this genome. Swallowed a small piece, and spat out such a big bird. We sat on the bird and took off. We had to stay in the sky for about an hour. Then we dived to the ground and found ourselves in front of a beautiful house. I went to the door and knocked on it. Naruto himself opened it with a katana and... I was really f-ked, but I didn't show it. The Rinnegan was burning in his eyes, but not like mine, more perfect. That's for sure. He has the power of a god. I decided to clarify. Uzumaki Naruto? Yes. What do you want? Asked the guy. Yes, he was my age. We are here to invite you and Itachi with Shisui Uchiha to my organization. Akatsuki, pompous, but what can you do? Naruto stepped away from the threshold and invited us all to enter the house. The room itself was beautiful and spacious. We went into the living room. There were two girls and a guy sitting on the couch, all of them brunettes. Hello, the girl sitting alone was the first to speak. My name is Itachi Uchiha. This is Shisui, a nod to the guy, and then to the girl hugging the brunette, and this is Sora. Nice to meet you. My name is Pain. I began introducing my companions one by one. This is Conan, and this is Deidara. Shisui smiled slyly and looked at the blonde. Is it a guy or a girl? You can't tell because of the cloak. After these words he giggled, and Deidara instantly blushed. It seemed to me that it was from embarrassment, but it turned out not to be so. He was very angry. I'll blow you up right now, Day screamed. I just sighed heavily and knocked him out with one movement of my hand. Then the blonde returned to the room, carrying 7 mugs of tea in his hands. You ask how he was able to carry as many as 7 mugs? The answer is simple. The way of Shirato. He simply grew 5 more arms. We sat down in our places, and Deidara came to his senses at the smell of tea. So, I would like to clarify a few points regarding our joining your organization, Naruto began. So, I would like to clarify a few points regarding our joining your organization, Naruto began. The conversation did not last long, or rather only 10 minutes. While the heads of the squads were talking, the girls were enthusiastically chatting about something of their own, but Itachi and Konan often cast interested glances at Naruto, and a little lust could be read in Konan's gaze. Shisui and Deidara were incinerating each other with their glances the whole time. Only Deidara was extremely angry, and Shisui, it seemed, was simply having fun, enjoying this performance. Soon the conversation between Pain and Naruto came to an end. They stood up and shook hands, both smiling. Then the head of Akatsuki decided to take the floor. Pain cleared his throat to distract the girls who were talking and Shisui and Deidara, who were incinerating each other with their eyes. The blonde then whispered something unintelligible, but Pain understood it as "I'll blow you up," and Shisui said under his breath, "Oh, and you'll dance in Tsukuyami for me." Hee hee. Naruto only mentally pitied these two, since Shisui would get in trouble, if not from Sora, then definitely from Itachi. Naruto let Shisui get away with almost everything. He was his best friend. And Pain was the head of the organization Deidara was a part of. So, Naruto and I discussed everything and came to the conclusion that the four of them would join our organization if I allowed Naruto to kill one person. Konan and Deidara stared at Pain, and the blonde couldn't stand it and shouted across the room. "What, are you completely crazy? Kill one of us, what if it's you? I'll blow him up right now," the terrorist yelled, but the red-haired one raised his hand, and Deidara shut up. After all, he was afraid of the leader, a little. "Don't worry, this person is not yet a member of our organization, or rather he is, but not officially. What do you know about a person named Toby?" The leader addressed his subordinates. They only shook their heads, but then Konan raised her finger. Pain, looking at her, nodded, giving a sign that it was okay to speak. I remembered. It was that man in the spiral mask who suggested we create Akatsuki, right? The blue-haired girl raised her eyebrows. Pain only chuckled. How many years have passed, and the Kunoichi still has such a memory of that moment. Yes. That's him. We're here with Naruto, is it okay that I switch to you? The red-haired man turned to the blonde. Naruto smiled. No, it's not scary, Namikaze gave a sign to continue the story. Naruto and I had a talk, put some facts together and realized that Toby, the one who suggested us to create our organization, and the one who attacked Konoha, are one and the same person. Even Naruto's partners opened their mouths in surprise. They still remembered that night. That was when Shirsui's parents died, but he didn't see Naruto's sister as the Nine Tails. He's not such an ass as the other villagers. As soon as he talked to the little girl, he realized that she was the spitting image of Kushina-san. What, but how can this be? Everyone started asking questions in turn. Then Naruto said, he said it very quietly, but everyone heard him. It is him that I want to kill. Because of him, so many people died in Konoha and Shirsui's parents died. Because of this bastard, he was left an orphan. I hate him, I will tear him apart and destroy him, but first I would like to show him to one person. I will not tell you who. Forgive me. My personal, Naruto looked straight into Pain's eyes and he understood that the blonde would not share this information with him under any circumstances. Okay. When are we going to the organization? The question belonged to Shisui. Well, now, I think. It's almost lunchtime and we have onigiri today, Deidara purred. Shisui looked at him with feigned anger. And in a growling voice he added, I love onigiri, so don't even dream of gobbling it all up by yourself. I'll tear you into a British flag. Deidara just grinned. Yes, yes, of course, and then he imitated the growling voice of the Uchiha. Just dare. I'll blow you up. Okay, that's it. Both of you stop, Konan shouted. Shisui and Deidara continued to stand as they were. Then Sora came to the aid of the blue-haired girl. She frowned and put her hands on her hips, and then said in a voice that did not bode well. Shisui. Stand at attention, motherfucker. The girl shouted. The brunette stood as he was taught in ANBU when a battalion commander or captain approached. He said in a stumbling voice. Why yes, dear, And then he glanced sideways at the laughing demolition man, and in his thoughts he was already making plans about what he would do with him when he loaded him into Tsukuyami. At this point, Pain intervened. "Deidara, stand up," he ordered. The blonde jumped to attention. Now it was Shirsue's turn to smile. "There is a way to deal with anyone." "Okay. If so, then go and pack your things, and I'll prepare a barrier for the house." "It would be a shame to waste it." Naruto sat down on the floor in the lotus position and clasped his hands together. He was going to put a seal that does not require your chakra. It will be powered by senjutsu, so you won't have to waste chakra, at least your own. "And yes, dear, please pack my things too." "You didn't have to ask. I would have collected it anyway." Itachi walked with a swaying gait to the second floor. Sora followed her, and Shisui ran after the girl, like a dog on a leash. While Naruto sat and collected nature chakra, and Shisui, Sora, and Itachi were packing, the Akatsuki trio came out to the clearing in front of the house. Then Deidara started talking. "I wonder how this can be?" the blonde asked into nowhere. His question was heard, and an answer was given immediately. "What, how can that be?" Pain asked. Deidara looked at Conan, then at Pain. "Oh, just like that. I was wondering how that could be. Do we have two identical gods?" The demolition man made a thoughtful face. At that moment, Pain broke out in a cold sweat. No. Deidara, Naruto's eyes are different. Didn't you see?" "Yeah, but they look alike." The blonde narrowed his eyes and looked at his leader. He gathered his courage and answered. "Yes. Naruto has the eyes of a god, and, I will not be ashamed of these words, they are much stronger than my eyes," as is Naruto himself. The red-haired man was not very pleased to realize that there were such eyes that would surpass his. After all, these are the eyes of the god of the shinobi world himself. Rikudo Sennin himself bequeathed them to him. But we know that this is not true, but he does not. Smiley face. "And what is Naruto's level of strength?" Conan was now interested. Pain looked into her eyes and saw there a terrible curiosity, interest, and attraction of the girl to the blonde. This pleased the leader of the Akatsuki organization very much, since in so many long years he had not seen Conan show such a lively and genuine interest in someone. "Well, you know the power level of the fourth Hokage, right?" Everyone nodded, knowing full well that Minato Namikaze would have simply rolled them into the wall and not noticed. "Well, so. At 12 years old, Naruto could easily spar with his father." Two listeners stared at him. "And now I am twice as strong as the fourth," a voice was heard from the house. Everyone turned around and looked at the residents of this mansion coming out. Each of them had medium-sized scrolls, and Naruto had a slightly larger one. He carried his own and Itachi's things. The girl walked lightly. All four approached the group from Akatsuki and began to wait for instructions addressed to them. Pain looked at Deidara. He, realizing what the leader wanted from him, put his hand in the pouch and pulled out a small piece of clay. The mouth on the palm of his hand ate it in an instant, and 5 seconds later spat out huge birds. There were 3 of them. They decided to fly in this formation. Itachi, Conan fly with Naruto, Shisui with Sora, and Pain with Deidara. The journey to the Akatsuki hideout took a long time. Shisui and Sora sometimes started to fall when they flew too fast, so they had to fly slower. Pain and Deidara flew in front of everyone, followed by Shisui and Sora, and then Naruto, Itachi, and Conan. Naruto flew last so that if Shisui started to fall, Naruto would catch him. They flew like this for about 2 hours. But soon, after this time, they landed near an unremarkable cave. Pain was the first to jump off his plane with Deidara, but he didn't count him, the birds. The others followed him from their flying machines. The red-haired man looked at everyone, and then walked towards the cave without saying a single word. The cave turned out to be huge. Several large floors, large showers, spacious restrooms, which were furnished to the highest standard. Yeah. Pain still remembers how he fought with Kakuzu for money to equip the entire cave. He then locked himself in his room, like a small child, and did not come out until Pain himself brought a very expensive corpse, for which he could get a pretty penny. Then Kakuzu forgave the leader and became a little more generous, or something. Now the entire old and new team went into the guest room. They sat on the couches, and Pain and Naruto left for the final acceptance into the organization and the issuance of their signature cloak with red clouds. 5 minutes later they returned. Naruto and Pain had cloaks in their hands, and in Naruto's pocket were 4 rings. The blonde gave each of his comrades a cloak and a ring and also put on a cloak and a ring. Sora stood up and twirled around in front of the mirror nearby. Itachi joined her as well. Shisui and Naruto watched calmly. They were kunoichi, but they were also girls and they wanted to look pretty too. Now I will call all our members of the organization and introduce you to them. Then you, Naruto, will be able to talk to Tobi. Pain said this very calmly, looking at the blonde. Okay. Call. Naruto was ready. He would take revenge on his former teammate Kakashi. Pain formed a seal of concentration and mentally gave the order to each of the rings, and it already to its owner. People in the standard Akatsuki uniform began to appear in the room one after another. I will come and take revenge on you, pathetic Namikaze. You, like your father, will lose to me. I promise you. The man in the orange spiral mask yelled. He stood on legs that were shaking very badly. He had just lost another arm, since the first was made artificially, and the second was a lost real arm, a serious problem. Now he would need to go to the cave where the real Uchiha Madara used to live. Now he was standing in the middle of a clearing that was stained with his blood in some places, and there was much more red liquid on him. He was standing without arms, only the creature Zetsu, an artificially grown man who was black and white and strongly resembled aloe, was now supporting him. Opposite the masked man stood a man. He was dressed in the standard cloak of the organization that our armless friend was about to leave. Naruto stood and calmly looked into the eye socket of the former teammate of one of his former senseis. The blonde had almost no injuries, which could not be said about Obito. Here the masked man activates his technique, and the Kamui funnel sucks both of them in. There is no trace left of them. Naruto let them go on purpose so that later Kakashi and his father could look at him and personally finish him off, since it was this masked freak who almost killed the blonde's parents and newborn sister, and attacks on one's family, loved ones, and friends are punishable by cruel retribution. The mask maker and his accomplice were sucked into the crater and disappeared without a trace. The last thing that remained to remind us of Obito and Naruto's battle was a clearing riddled with craters and the blood that was all over the area. You're probably wondering what happened first? I'll tell you now. Flashback. An hour ago. The Akatsuki organization's cave. The moment when all members were called for a meeting. Pain stood in the middle of a large room. He formed a concentration seal, and people began to form around him. They were dressed in the standard Akatsuki uniform. There were 6 of them in total. It is worth describing them. The first person Naruto saw was Tobi. He was a man wearing a spiral mask with a hole for one eye. He, like everyone else, was wearing a black cloak with red clouds. Zetsu. It was something. It wasn't a person or a plant, but some kind of hybrid. First of all, it was black and white. Secondly, it had a huge Venus flytrap growing out of its basin. Itachi and Sora shuddered at that. Kisame. Also a strange man. Although no. He also looks like a hybrid. A shark man. Blue skin, small round eyes and gills on his neck. He had a huge sword on his back. As was known, it was Samahata. The strongest sword of the 7 swords of the mist. Kisame was also nicknamed Bijou without a tail for his colossal reserves of chakra, but he was still far from Naruto, although he was still a very dangerous opponent. Sasori. The best puppeteer in the world. Shisui thought he was taller. He was a short man with a mask covering half his face. A huge steel tail was growing out of his lower back. Kakuzu. According to Pain, he is a real tightwad. He can kill anyone for a coin. He is a terrible miser, but you can always come to an agreement with him if you offer him something worthwhile. As was known, he was very strong and fought with Shodai Hokage himself, but lost the fight miserably. He has a rare type of jutsu. There are many threads in his body that he controls and can take the hearts of a person, appropriating the element that the deceased had. Haiden. Immortal foul-mouthed. Follower of the Jashin cult. As they say, this god gives his servants the power that helps them. He grants immortality, and in return asks for blood sacrifices as an offering. That's all the Akatsuki members except Konan, Pain, and Deidara. They're all S-class criminals who could compete with the Kage, but Naruto thought that the only ones who could defeat his father here or even just stand up to him would be Tobi, Pain, and maybe Kisame with his Samehada, but the rest would be smashed into the ground by Minato. All the members stood in a semicircle, and Pain stepped forward. So, today, for missing Nin agreed to join us. This is Naruto Namikaze. Tobi shuddered at the name, because he knew Naruto's strength and thought that he had figured him out. How damn right he was. Uchiha Itachi Ensure. Sora. But Naruto had one condition for joining. He would kill one of us. Silence fell over the room. But then Haiden burst out laughing. He started laughing like a horse. The other members of the organization looked at each other. Naruto could read fear in them, but this fear was carefully hidden behind a mask of impenetrability. They all knew perfectly well that this blonde was twice as strong as the fourth Hokage, and the latter could roll them all into the asphalt. Well, almost all of them. Pain. Ahaha. What are you doing? Do you think that weakling can kill any of us? Ahahaha. Almost everyone present made a hand-face gesture. Haiden had always been overconfident and relied heavily on his god. Yes, Jashin-sama will punish him. I will sacrifice you to my god. Quiet. Pain barked at the priest. Haiden stopped laughing and began cursing Pain under his breath. Everything I just said is true. So, Naruto will challenge one of us to a fight, but it will not be me, not Deidara, not Konan, not Kakuzu. The organization's chief accountant sighed calmly, but no one noticed, not Sasori, the same with the puppeteer. He didn't really want to waste his creations of art, not Kisame, and here too, there was a share of disappointment. Samehada will not taste the chakra of this blonde, but you, Tobi, will fight him. After these words, the mask maker barely flinched. Why me? He said in his serious voice. Everyone from the organization stared at him like he was the eighth wonder of the world. Well, of course. They knew the dumb guy who was always yelling that he was good, and then suddenly he became such a serious guy. Because I want to take revenge on you, but I won't kill you. No. I want my father and Kakashi to look you in the eyes, Obito. Now the mask wearer frowned even more and sent chakra through his body. In order to react in time, he activated the Sharingan. It was you who attacked my family and my unborn sister. You are to blame for this, and you set the Kyuubi on Konoha. I know that I am no longer a shinobi of Konoha, but the last thing I will do for her is, no. I will not kill. I will simply deliver you there when you simply do not have the strength to resist. No. I'll kill you. Here and now. I'll kill you and take your eyes for myself. With them, I'll definitely become invincible and immerse the world in a complete illusion, where there will be peace and quiet. Where there will be no wars. Where I will be with Rin. After these words, the masked man rushed at Naruto. He, activating his Rinnegan, prepared for battle. Obito jumped up to Naruto and tried to kick the blonde in the head with a spin, but it didn't happen. Naruto dodged and, intercepting the leg, threw Tobi into the wall. The stone structure couldn't stand such abuse and, waving its handle, broke, and Obito flew out into the clearing, having plowed a decent distance. Naruto followed the projectile into the hole. The others followed him. Deidara with Shursui, Sora, and Kisame were already chewing popcorn that had appeared out of nowhere and watching the spectacle. And it promised to be colorful. Konan and Itachi just watched it with smiles on their faces. They knew that Naruto would be able to beat the crap out of Tobi like no other. Pain and the rest of the organization stood and watched it with stony faces. Well, and Haiden commented on it all in his own language. Our fucking good boy tried to punch the new guy in the back, but that fucking attack didn't work, and our new faggot dodged and punched that fucker Obito in the face. Serves you right, dumb bitch. A couple of explosive kunai landed in Haiden's place and detonated. The swearer shut up, and the others finally exhaled calmly and continued watching the spectacle. Here Obito and Naruto started to accelerate. They both could go to very fast speed and not miss blows due to their dojutsu. Now they were tired of fighting only hand to hand, and they jumped away from each other. Naruto made a couple of seals and his hands started to spark and balls started to form on his palms. After they formed, Naruto started throwing them at the Uchiha. Raiton, ball lightning, many small lightning bolts flew towards Toby. When they touched the surface, they left craters with a radius of 5 meters. Toby jumped away from the ball's impact zone, but he was still hit by the technique. Now small discharges were running through his body, causing him some discomfort. In revenge, Naruto Obito made a series of seals and spat a huge ball at him. Naruto couldn't absorb it, he simply didn't have time, and he couldn't jump away. But then an idea came to him. Obito, standing and watching this spectacle, smiled contentedly. He thought that was it. This was his victory, but it was not to be. A voice was heard from behind the swirl of fire. Shinra Tensei, the technique burst like a balloon. Now the blonde began to fold the seals. Having folded a couple dozen of them, he put his hands on the ground and shouted the name of the technique. Doton, Stone Army. Stone creatures began to emerge from the ground. They were dragons. Naruto summoning symbol. He was the only person who could summon dragons, well, except for the Nidaime Hokage. Tobirama had summoned these lizards too, but his were different from Naruto's. Before the Rinnegan, the blonde had only one element. Raiton. Now that he had all 5 elements, he tried to summon dragons of other elements, and he succeeded. Obito began chopping the lizards into pieces. But he was already getting tired, and the lizards kept coming. Thank God, he thought when he chopped up the last reptile, but then he saw Naruto start making seals for another technique. The Uchiha didn't like that. He instantly made a couple of seals and spat a big fireball at Naruto. A stone wall appeared a couple of meters before the blonde, and after it, peaks began to grow, which were directed at Toby. He didn't test their strength with his skin. He made 10 seals and shouted the name of the technique. Mokuton, birth of the forest, in defiance of the peaks, wooden trunks began to appear. They destroyed the peaks with such ease that in a couple of seconds nothing remained of them. Naruto did not expect such a dirty trick. He did not even imagine that his opponent had Mokuton. What a bastard. Where did he get Mokuton? This thought was spinning around in the guy's head. Uchiha started making seals. Naruto tensed up and, apparently, for good reason. Toby made the seals and placed his hands on the ground. Mokuton, wood dragon, a colossus with an ugly face burst out from under the ground. It was smaller than Shodai's, but still caused enormous damage. Itachi and the others who were watching this battle opened their mouths in surprise. They never thought that Obito had Mokuton. Itachi and Konan were about to intervene, but Shursui stopped them. Konan herself did not understand why she wanted to stand up for this blonde. Shursui. Are you crazy? This is Mokuton. Naruto has nothing against it. Itachi burst into a scream. Shursui only smirked. Darling, have you forgotten that he is the owner of the strongest dojutsu? He is Shinra Tensei, Amaterasu, and Susanoo. Don't worry, Naruto can handle it. So. Now that's bad. What's stronger than wood? Exactly. Fire whirlpool element. Kato and Fu. I don't have it, but I can get it. So. I need to summon a clone and he'll use Fu, and I'll use Kato. This forest with the dragon will get it. Heh. A clone appeared next to the blonde. Naruto made a series of seals, and his clone repeated after him. They simultaneously exhaled techniques that, when merged, turned out to be greater than Obito's technique. Katon, fire dragon. Naruto. Futon, vacuum dragon. A clone of the blonde. 2 dragons flew out to meet Obito's. They began to spin and soon merged into one. It was a dragon that consisted of wildly spinning flames. It pounced on the wooden dragon and after 15 seconds of fighting broke it in half and rushed towards the forest. Soon the forest itself was ablaze with bright flames. It was so beautiful that the spectators even stared at it, especially the girls and Deidara with Sasori. This is art, they thought to themselves. The fire danced on the tree trunks as Naruto and Obito prepared to charge. Konan was the first to look up from the flames and at the blonde and brunette. she screamed. What are they going to do? The blue-haired girl asked Itachi. She looked at Naruto and Obito and said. Apparently, they want to switch to taijutsu again, but they are waiting for the fire to go out, Uchiha answered and shrugged, but Kakuzu had another option. No. They will fight in the fire, he said. Everyone turned to him. What? Where are they going to fight? In the fire? Are they crazy? Sora said. The renegade from Kusakagure just shook his head in denial. No, Sora. They will fight in the fire, but it will be an unusual fight, he said. What do you mean unusual? Deidara asked. This time, Kisame answered. He knew about the method of such a battle. It's a one-hit battle. Now all heads were turned towards him. A silent question was frozen on their faces. Kisame sighed and began to explain. In our village there is such a type of fight as a one-hit battle. The sparring parties prepare for it for a minute. The one with more experience wins. No dojutsu will be important here. What is important here is to have more experience in such battles. If one starts preparing, then the other must respond to it. These are the rules. But you can only use it once per battle. Well, FCK that. Our FCK Tobik knows how to fuck by these fucking rules too. Ha ha ha. Haydn laughed, but under Pain's angry gaze he shut up. A minute of preparation passed, and the attackers rushed forward. No one saw the collision because of the dense wall of fire. Only the sound of metal colliding with metal could be heard. A second later, Naruto flew out of the thickness of the fire, with a deep wound on his chest, and Obito jumped out on the other side, completely unharmed. Naruto flew along the ground, constantly turning over in flight. Konan and Naruto's friend stared at this. The others were also surprised. Really, everyone? Some thought. Itachi wanted to rush to the blonde, but Pain stopped her. Are you crazy? He's going to kill Naruto now. Let him go. But the red-haired man shook his head. Sorry, but I can't. Naruto volunteered for this battle himself, and we have no right to interfere. Uchiha moderated her ardor a little, but activated Mangekyo Sharingan to summon Amaterasu in time. Obito walked up to Naruto and leaned over him. His hand reached for Naruto's eye sockets, but Naruto grabbed his hand and pulled him towards himself, grabbed his throat with his hand and squeezed hard. You thought that I could be killed with such a blow? The brunette looked at the blonde with his Sharingan activated. He tried to immerse the blonde in an illusion, but it didn't work. Ha 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 ha. Such illusions don't work on me. You are weak, Uchiha. But Naruto was interrupted. Don't you want peace? Don't you want to live with your family? Obito asked, wheezing in pain. I want to, but what you're about to do is not a solution. In your reality, all of this will be untrue. In this world, everyone will be fake. All of this will be wrong. But it will be better this way. There will be no deaths in this world, I will be with Rin and my family there. Naruto thought that Obito had gone crazy. He keeps talking about his ideal world, it's already sickening. That's it. I'm tired of you. Naruto threw Tobi away and, while he was getting up, the blonde made a series of seals and breathed a huge lizard into Obito. Katan, great royal fire dragon, Naruto blew out an unrealistically huge colossus, which rushed at Tobi. He let the technique pass through himself, but he did not take into account that Naruto's technique would be able to turn around and rush back at him. Of course, he managed to activate Kamui, but he was still badly battered. At the moment when the technique was near Obito, Naruto threw a kunai at Kid, and it landed next to the Uchiha. Naruto instantly hit him in the jaw so that he flew to the feet of the spectators. They did not move and simply looked at him. Tobi decided to take advantage of the chance. Pain. Order everyone to start attacking that blonde and his friends. Order them all. The red-haired man only calmly looked into Obito's eyes. This icy steadfastness only angered the Uchiha even more. This is my organization. I suggested creating it, and I created it, you just took the reins, and so I am the boss here. I am your leader, and I order you. Kill him and his friends. No one moved. Uchiha was furious to the limit. He took a desperate and very stupid step. Obito activated Kamui and moved behind Itachi. She didn't even move when a kunai was put to her throat. This was the last straw for Naruto's patience. Uzumaki. If you don't lay down your weapons and give me your eyes right now, I'll kill her, but he was interrupted by a quiet and cold voice. Naruto spoke quietly, but Obito, who was standing about 100 meters away, still heard it. The voice, and Naruto himself, emanated such a coldness that Obito shuddered. Naruto raised his eyes and looked straight into Tobi's eye. You, the man who dared to attack my family, threaten me that you will kill my girlfriend? The blonde almost screamed the last words. Now Tobi understood that he had made a terrible mistake. Naruto could not stand it. Well, that's it, you're screwed. After these words, everyone felt a huge release of chakra. Of course, Naruto did not want to kill them all, he released only 1/4 of his energy, and now it was at the level of the four-tailed. The air immediately became dry. Susanoo began to form around the blonde. It was not yet complete. Naruto did not want to show it. Obito, realizing that things were going badly, immediately jumped away from the brunette and also activated his Susanoo. He immediately started with a full one. It was about twice as big as Naruto's. Tobi grinned. He thought that the blonde had nothing to counter him with, but what happened next made the mask wearer go fucking nuts. No, that's not it. It made Tobi go fucking holy fuck. Now a complete Susanoo had formed around Naruto. It was 3 times bigger than Obito's Susanoo, which made him think. Shouldn't I leave before it's too late? Is that all you can do? Pain's thoughts, what is he saying? They're definitely going to roll him into the asphalt now. Conan's thoughts, he pretended to be an idiot, and he's still an idiot in real life. Deidara, you're a moron. Kakuzu, his corpse can be sold profitably in Konoha. Kisame, well, I'll make a note that it's better not to anger Naruto. Sasori, he's the perfect doll. I want him to be my doll. Zetsu, Tobi-sama. You shouldn't have said that. Sora, Shursui, Itachi, Naruto, you're such a show-off. No. Now I'll show you something else. What happens if you put Susanoo and Amaterasu together? The blonde grinned. What are you talking about? This can't be. An Uchiha can't use 2 techniques at the same time. Tobi screamed in fear. Naruto just grinned. Well, I'm not an Uchiha. So. Suresu, activate. Naruto's Susanoo was covered in black flames. Tobi fell to his knees and said quietly. I'm finished. Tobi-sama, don't give up. Zetsu shouted and hurried to help his comrade. Naruto, seeing this, swung his katana and, like a knife through butter, broke Susanoo and cut off Obito's hand, and then, turning off Tsuresa and Rinnegan, with the help of Hiraishin he cut off the second hand. Then he simply moved to the group from Akatsuki, and Zetsu appeared in front of the brunette falling to the ground. I will come and take revenge on you, pathetic Namikaze. You, like your father, will lose to me. I promise you. Tobi yelled. He stood on legs that were shaking very badly. He had just lost another arm, since the first was made artificially, and the second was a lost real arm, a serious problem. Now he was going to the cave where the real Uchiha Madara used to live. Obito and Zetsu were absorbed by the transport technique and disappeared. Naruto stood there for a minute and then turned to Akatsuki. That's it. Then he'll need to be caught again, but I'm afraid he could ruin many more lives, Naruto said quietly, walking towards the group of people. He approached Pain and looked at him. Are we accepted? Naruto asked rhetorically. Pain nodded. Thank you, but right now I'd like to go and get some sleep. Naruto headed towards the cave, and the others followed him. Konan showed Naruto and Shursui their rooms, and then left. Naruto undressed, leaving only his pants on, and collapsed on the bed. The blonde rolled over onto his back and fell asleep in the shape of a starfish. Commentary on Part 5. Leave feedback. I'm interested in how I described the fight. Part 6 Akatsuki Lair. The head of the organization's office. 2010, 2 years after the battle between Naruto and Tobi. Pain sat and thought about the future of his organization. Now that his main goal was temporarily out of the picture, he could put his real plan into action, namely, world domination. He thought that all the people in the world were a flock of sheep, who had leaders in their herds, but did the herds need a shepherd? And he was going to become one. And for that, he needed incredible power. This power would be the Bijou and his organization, which was rightfully considered the most dangerous in the entire world. And now the head of Akatsuki has summoned several of the most powerful missing nin in the world to his office. Naruto, Itachi, and Konan. I have gathered you here to tell you your task. Pain looked meaningfully at his charges. Your task is to capture the one-tailed demon. Since Konoha and Suna are in an alliance, I have no doubt that the Leaf will send reinforcements from its side. You must deliver the Jinchuriki of the one-tailed demon to base number 5. It will be the closest to your location. Then Konan will call us all by hologram and we will carry out the sealing. Naruto, since your chakra volume is at the level of the three-tailed demon, the sealing will be faster. The red-haired looked at the blonde. Naruto nodded in agreement. Well, now go. Good luck. And yes, Nagato stopped the shinobi in front of the door. If you encounter shinobi from Konoha or Suna on the way to the cave, then only wound them or seriously exhaust them, but do not kill them. We're only hunting for the Bijou. You're all free to go. Naruto, you're in charge of this operation. The blonde nodded and transported everyone to their rooms with the help of Hiraishin. We'll meet at the exit in 15 minutes. And he disappeared. Itachi and Konan exchanged glances and went to their rooms to gather. Naruto also didn't waste time and moved outside. He bit his finger and made a couple of seals. A small dragon appeared next to him. He turned his scaly head towards his master and looked at him questioningly. Hello, Kuro, how are you? The dragon looked Naruto in the eyes and sent a mental signal that everything was fine. Well done. I need your help. The dragon nodded. Can you take this message to my father? Naruto showed a small thin scroll to the dragon. He nodded and swallowed the scroll Naruto held out to him, then spread his wings and shot up into the air. The blonde blinked, and the dragon was no longer visible. 5 minutes later, 2 girls came out to him. They stood on either side of Naruto. Itachi spoke first. Naruto, we are ready, we can go. She looked at her boyfriend. The blonde nodded and put his hands on the girl's shoulders. Konan and Itachi felt a little unsteady after the transfer. The girls opened their eyes and looked around. They were standing in the desert, and to the north they could see the gates of Suna. Naruto, how are we going to get there? Storming the main gates is not an option, we won't be able to handle it. The blonde looked skeptically at the blue-haired girl. She immediately realized that she had blurted out something and hurried to correct herself. No, we can do it, but Pain said that we won't kill anyone. Yes. We won't. But that doesn't stop us from making a spectacular appearance? The blonde glanced at the girls, who, in turn, smiled slyly. Well, how will we get there? Itachi, do you know what my summoning is? Naruto elegantly raised his left eyebrow and looked at his girlfriend. A dragon, she answered confidently. Yes. And what can dragons do? Spit fire? Yes, and what else? How do they move? It slowly began to dawn on the brunette. Konan stood with her mouth slightly open in surprise. As she knew, dragons were the summoning of Shodai Hokage. And the fact that Naruto had won surprised her very much, but remembering about Mokutan, she realized that there was nothing surprising about this summoning. That's it. The girl exclaimed. I understand. Go ahead and summon. Anything for you, madam. Any whim for your money? Naruto grinned nastily. The brunette raised her eyes to the sky. Well, okay. Itachi approached the blonde and stood up, as she was a head shorter than Naruto. She imprinted a light kiss on his lips, which Naruto did not want to end, but time was of the essence. The blonde reluctantly tore himself away from his girlfriend and looked into her onyx eyes. There was a blush on the brunette's cheeks. The blonde only chuckled cheerfully. The Uchiha was always so embarrassed when they kissed in front of strangers. Well, okay, time is money. Ugh, damn, I need to talk to Kakuzu less. The girls laughed, and Naruto bit his finger and made a few seals. The blonde placed his hand on the sand, and a large summoning seal spread across it. The entire space was covered in smoke. Naruto walked over to the girls and stood with his back to the summoning. I can say with confidence that you have never seen anything like this before. The blonde spread his arms out to the sides, as if inviting someone to look at something. This something turned out to be a huge dragon, which was not inferior in size to the seven-tailed. Behind its back were two huge wings folded. The little dragon itself was black. Sharp growths in a metal frame were scattered along its back and tail. A deep scar ran through its eye. The eyes themselves were bright red. Let me introduce you. This is Sentinel. Sentinel, this is Itachi and Konan. You don't have to eat them, but you do have to take care of them. The dragon looked at the girls carefully, and then looked at the summoner. Naruto smiled widely at Sentinel. The dragon only snorted at this action, with a cloud of flame flying out of his nostrils. Who is this? Uchiha cried out. Itachi, don't shout. The blonde demonstratively plugged his ears with his index fingers and closed his eyes. Have you calmed down? Excellent. As I already said, this is Sentinel. He is my summon. He will soon be 150 years old. He was summoned by Hashirama himself, but his summoning was unfinished. The reason? A banal lack of chakra. Ha ha ha. I remember little Hashi. Ha ha ha. How mad he was that he couldn't summon me completely. Heh. Ah. He had another friend. Madara, I think. Yeah. They had a glorious battle back then. Oh well. That's not the point now. Why did you summon me, Naruto? Oh, just like that, the blonde waved his hand, but the devils in his eyes were dancing worse than gypsies with a tambourine. All we need to do is capture One-Tailed. What? The dragon's jaw dropped. Itachi and Konan doubted the dragon's strength a little, seeing its reaction to Naruto's words, but then these doubts disappeared, because the dragon said the following. And because of this trifle you called me? Naruto. You can put him down with one finger, and even with your transformation into a dragon. Here Sentinel realized that he had said too much and covered his mouth with his tail, seeing how the blonde's eyes became bloodshot. How many times have I told you to keep quiet about this? I can't turn into a dragon, well, maybe just a little bit. Oh, really? Konan exclaimed. She, like Itachi, was very surprised that Naruto, although not completely, could transform into a dragon. The Uchiha knew that her boyfriend practiced senjutsu with dragons, but to get to this point. Okay, that's enough. We already have a mission. Sentinel. Naruto's shout made the dragon stand at attention and salute with its tail. You will take us to the village and then distract most of the shinobi, but don't kill anyone. We will capture the Kazekage during this time. Does everyone understand? Naruto's subordinates nodded their heads. Okay, jump on Sentinel, otherwise Konan's knees are already shaking with impatience. Hooray! After this scream, Konan quickly jumped on Sentinel's neck and sat there as comfortably as possible. Itachi also did not lag behind her, so after half a minute everyone was looking only at the blonde, since he remained standing on the ground. Naruto sat in the lotus position and folded one seal. He began to absorb natural energy for his technique. Sentinel, guessing what the blonde was going to do, chuckled knowingly and stood up on his paws. Itachi and Konan almost fell to the ground from surprise. Okay, that's it, I'm ready. The blonde said and closed his eyes. What happened next surprised everyone except Sentinel, since he had already seen it and taught Naruto this technique himself. Partial transformation technique. Wings. Wings began to grow from the blonde's back. They were black, like Sentinel's, but had a more streamlined shape than the dragon's. The wings spanned 5 meters. There was a sharp spike at each end. Well, shall we go? Asked the blonde and soared into the sky. The dragon crouched for a jump and a second later was already flying next to the blonde. Sentinel. drop them near the Kage residence. I'll catch them. Understood. The entire flight did not take long. As soon as the nuke crossed the village border, they were immediately showered with a hail of techniques. But the worst thing was that sand grew in their path. Naruto's POV. Aha. And here comes our honorable Kazekage, activated. We're going to strike now. I should tell Sentinel to send me my charges. Dragon, drop it. Ihe. How funny to watch them scream. Hee hee hee. Yeah. I'm very naughty. Oh well. I'll catch them. Well, girls, how do you like the flight? Are you completely out of your mind? Well, Naruto, you'll be punished. A week without sex. Well, now that's a blow below the belt. Mean, Itachi-chan, very mean. Oh well, I know how to get you to talk in bed like no one else. You'll still answer for your words. Okay. I'll just land and put them on the ground. Ah, Conan drawled. Solid ground under my feet. Kiss her again. I chuckled, seeing her blush. Yeah. And this is our ice princess? Huh. So. Here's a task for you. While you cover me, I'll spank our dear Kage, and then we'll fly back to the cave for sealing. Is everything clear to you? The girls nodded. Okay, good luck. I didn't hear them wish me luck anymore and flew off to the Kazekage. I should finish with him quickly and fly to the ceiling. Minato was sitting quietly in his office, sorting through papers, when the door slammed open and Uzumaki Kushina appeared on the threshold with 9 fluttering strands of fiery color. Namikaze swallowed and forced a smile, but his wife didn't pay any attention to it and flew up to the table. Hokage-sama. This address alone made the 4th gather himself. The village of Sand has been attacked, the Kazekage has been kidnapped. Suna asks Konoha for help. What? Yellow Lightning frowned and stood up from his chair, then called the secretary. They called, the girl who entered began, but Kushina's commanding voice interrupted her. Yes. Call Team Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, and Guy here immediately. Hi, Kushina-san. The secretary shouted and literally flew out of the office. Minato remained silent at this, not considering it necessary to anger the red-haired girl at such a moment, and then calmly addressed her. Who attacked? Minato folded his hands and looked intently at his wife. I don't know, Uzumaki said tiredly, calming down and sitting down on the sofa. It seems like someone from Akatsuki, but Naruto is there. Maybe he sent us a warning. A few minutes later, the 4 teams stood in the Hokage's office, fully assembled. So, the hidden sand village is under attack, the Yondaime said sternly. Team 7, Team 8, Team 9, and Team 10, go help our allies. Don't let the enemy capture the Jinchuriki of the one-tailed Shikaku. The Jonin and their charges stood at attention and nodded in unison. I appoint the person in charge of this S-rank mission. I'll go, everyone heard Kushina's firm voice. Hokage-sama, put me in charge of this task. But, Minato wanted to refuse, but his wife's eloquent look made it clear that objections were not accepted. Okay, he gave in, realizing that Kushina wanted to at least take a look at her son and make sure that everything was okay with him. I appoint Uzumaki Kushina in charge of this mission. Is everyone clear? Hi. Forward. The blonde commanded, everyone bowed and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Minato tiredly put his head in his hands and sighed heavily, realizing that the problems were just beginning. The only good thing is that Akatsuki now has Konoha spies, delivering information about some of the attacks caused by this criminal organization. Naruto, now everything depends on you and your friends. Part 7 4 teams led by Kushina literally flew towards the village hidden in the sand. In my FIC it will be much less, so don't be surprised. All 17 people had been jumping on trees for about 3 hours already. Chunin and Jonin were already tired, but their red-haired Jonin was still full of strength and continued jumping from one branch to another, without slowing down. After running another kilometer, Kakashi caught up with his sensei's wife and carefully, knowing her explosive character and no less cool temper, asked her, Kushina-san, we, of course, understand that you haven't gone on a mission for a long time and want to fight, and the mission needs to be completed, but, here's the thing." Kakashi hesitated, thinking about how to express the problem of the remaining squad so as not to expose them and himself in front of the bloody habanero as some kind of snotty genin. "Kakashi-kun, don't mumble," the red-haired girl said too sharply, turning her head towards the gray-haired jonin. He swallowed the lump in his throat. Sometimes he was very afraid of the elder Uzumaki, and when she was angry, it was a complete disaster. "Sorry, Kushina-san, but our students are tired and need a short break," Hataki said in one breath, and then looked at the red-haired girl with anticipation. She looked back and saw that some of the Chunin were indeed already breathing heavily and running only on their willpower. Uzumaki slowed down a little and looked at her husband's student. "In 5 minutes we will make a halt. If we move as we are now, then in a kilometer there will be a clearing where we can rest," the woman said and slowed down a little so that the younger generation would not fall from the trees like cones from exhaustion. "Okay, Kushina-san," Kakashi said and slowed down so that the senseis of the other teams could catch up with him. "So, Kakashi, when's the rest stop?" Asuma asked, taking out a cigarette and lighting it. A muffled cough was heard from behind. A cloud of smoke released by Sarutobi flew at Sakura. "In a kilometer there will be a small clearing where we can have a good rest. We still have about 5 minutes to jump. It's not that much, and from there the village is just a stone's throw away." "I'm just wondering," Kurenai said, looking at the back of Kushina, who was running ahead. "Why are we in such a hurry?" The Jonins looked at her in surprise. They didn't expect her to say that. Kurenai, realizing that she had been misunderstood, quickly corrected herself. "No, I meant something else. I understand the purpose of our mission, saving the Kazekage, but why are we in such a hurry? I know that extracting the bijou takes a lot of effort and, especially, time, and the journey to Suna is not the longest, so. Maybe Kushina-san hopes to see her son?" asked Shikamaru, who had caught up with the Jonin. They looked at the young genius of the Nara clan with surprise. They had not expected such a turn of events. Their thoughts were interrupted by Kushina's voice. While they were talking, the group of shinobi had already reached their resting place. Or rather, that small clearing that was located in the center of the forest. "We'll stop here for a rest." Uzumaki looked around, and then turned to her group members. "We'll have an hour to rest, no more, and then we'll resume our journey. We need to get to Suna as quickly as possible." "Wow!" the blonde exclaimed as a wave of sand flew at him. "What a genome, cool. But... sorry, Kazekage, but you are our target, and I will have to capture you and bring you to our hideout," Naruto said and once again jumped away from a wave of sand directed at him. "No thanks, I'm fine here," Sabaku muttered quietly to himself, but tried to trap the Akatsuki, but failed, for which he paid with an instant blow to the jaw, which threw him back a good 100 meters. The bone didn't break only because his body was encased in sand armor. Naruto used the Thunder God flight technique and found himself near the sandstone, but the sand, which constantly protected its owner regardless of his condition, did not allow him to come closer. Now Gaara, rubbing his jaw, which was aching from a strong blow, rose from the ground, simultaneously fighting off Namake's attacks with sand. This pandemonium continued for about half an hour and the blonde was already getting pretty fed up. 5 minutes later, enraged, he jumped away from the heavily breathing Kazekage, spread his arms out to the sides and said in a calm voice filled with power. "Shimmer Tensei." A wave of force came from the hands of the renegade, which demolished everything in its path, but Naruto did not stop there. Without canceling the technique, he used another one and pulled Gaara to himself. He succeeded, since the wave pushed away all the sand within a radius of 300 meters, and the sandstone was helpless, and Banshu Tennin also made a large crater in the ground. Grabbing the young Kazekage by the throat, Naruto squeezed his carotid artery and threw the unconscious body over his shoulder. While fighting, the blonde hadn't even noticed how far they had gotten from the village, so now he had to walk about half a kilometer. After walking 5 steps, Naruto hit himself on the forehead with his palm, or rather, on the crossed-out forehead protector. Biting his finger, he called Sentinel, who was currently fighting in the sand village. He appeared immediately. "Well, Naruto, are you done?" asked the dragon, looking at the blonde. He grinned and threw the body of the fifth Kazekage onto the reptile's back. As you can see, my friend, it's all over. He didn't even have time to release Shikaku, and I already crushed him. Okay, let's fly, we still have to get the girls out of there, Naruto said and jumped on Sentinel's neck. The dragon spread his huge wings and soared into the air. The way to the village was short, so after 5 minutes Naruto saw 2 fighting girls. Konan was hovering in the sky and defending herself with her paper wings from the countless kunai that were thrown at her, and Itachi was fighting off the shinobi pressing on her on the ground. Then one kunai with an explosive seal hit Konan in the wing. There was an explosion. The blue-haired girl fell to the ground. Itachi immediately jumped up to her. Blood was coming out of Hayumi's hand, and her right side was already completely red. The fabric, soaked in blood and sweat, stuck to her body, preventing her from moving, and, in general, the sensations were not the most pleasant. The black-haired girl fought back as best she could, but it was still difficult to fight against so many shinobi, and now she also had to protect her friend, and Sentinel had disappeared into thin air. Sentinel, Naruto addressed his summon, looking down at the fighting girls. What do you think, should I just jump down or make an epic appearance? Let's make it epic, I want to see the surprised faces of these sub-shinobi, the reptile chuckled. Naruto stood on Sentinel's head. Well, let's fly. The blonde said loudly and jumped head first. He developed a huge speed, falling at an angle of almost 90 degrees. After flying like this for about 13 seconds, he grouped himself and, landing right in front of the girls, punched the ground. Nothing happened. Laughter began to be heard from the crowd. Konan looked at Naruto with incomprehension, and Itachi's eyes began to widen. She had seen this move before. Itachi, jump up with Konan on the count of 3, Naruto said quietly. 1. The accumulation of chakra has ended. 2. Naruto noticed how the girl tensed the muscles in her legs and pushed off the ground hard, soaring into the air. The jump was reinforced by chakra, so it was very powerful. The blonde saw how Sentinel picked up the girls and began to fly away towards the cave. Naruto also saw how they shouted something to him. 3. The blonde, so to speak, pulled the trigger. The chakra collected during the flight, and for all 5 seconds that Naruto talked to the girls and 3 seconds of collecting chakra, burst out in the form of a huge bluish wave. The shinobi who did not have time to react were scattered in different directions over a huge distance. Many of them received fractures as a result of kissing the building, some swept the ground with themselves, others were simply scattered. All the sand also rose into the air, leaving behind ordinary earth and a huge cloud of dust mixed with grains of sand that unpleasantly cut the skin and got into the eyes. Naruto rose from his knees and looked around, assessing his work. He grunted in satisfaction, looked at the ruined settlement once more, and, gathering some senjutsu as he ran, created wings for himself, pushed off from the ground and took off. The blonde caught up with the dragon with the Jinchuriki's body on its back and the girls, who were looking worriedly towards the village. Flying under Sentinel's belly, he was out of the girl's line of sight, but the dragon sensed him without showing it. Naruto was pleased by such concern for his very modest person, but there was no point in worrying the girls, so he simply emerged before their eyes and continued flying behind the dragon. Konan screamed in surprise. Both females had eyes the size of saucers. I told you I could fly on my scaly ones. Naruto said with a grin and, flying up to the Uchiha, pressed his lips to hers without slowing down. Itachi was taken aback at first, but then began to answer, running her thin fingers through Naruto's lush mane. Konan, who was watching this scene, blushed and turned away. Over these 2 years, she had managed to fall in love with Naruto, but the blue-haired girl understood that she had almost no chance. Naruto was happy with his beloved, and she would be alone. She had been alone her whole life, with the exception of her friends, Yahiko and Nagato, but after Yahiko's death she withdrew into herself. Nagato, seeing this, tried to somehow cheer her up, but he was unsuccessful until Naruto appeared. After the appearance of this blonde, the girl began to blossom right before our eyes. A mysterious smile often played on her face, and when talking to Naruto himself, it never left her face. Only one thing upset Konan. Naruto had a girlfriend. Itachi. She liked this brunette, but Konan herself could not come to terms with the fact that her love had another, and this made the blue-haired girl suffer even more. She wanted Naruto to be with her, although she understood that this was unlikely. Konan saw how the blonde looked at Itachi, and she at him, and understood that their love was mutual. And now, sitting on Naruto's summons, she watched these two kiss. The Konoha squad was approaching Suna. Kushina, Kurenai, and Ino clearly felt the powerful chakra, but it didn't look like Abija's chakra, it was human. The red-haired girl immediately recognized this energy. Naruto. Only this thought was in Kushina's head. I hope that in the long time you spent in this criminal organization, you haven't changed and remain as kind as you were before. I hope that Itachi and Shisui didn't let you fall into the abyss of darkness. Half an hour later, the squad was already in the hidden sand village. What appeared before them was amazing. Not a single destroyed building, only cracks in the ground were visible, and here and there large pits of a perfectly round shape. People were walking around the village and helping the shinobi collect the injured. As soon as the Konoha members crossed the border of the hidden village, they were immediately surrounded by a squad of ANBU. Who are you and what do you want in Suna? The fighter in the tanuki mask asked in a commanding voice. Kushina boldly stepped forward and took a scroll out of her pouch. After handing it to the fighter, she walked back to her squad. The fighter, having read the scroll, waved his hand to his men to retreat. Follow me, the elders are already waiting for you, said Tanuki and quickly walked somewhere into the depths of the village. The detachment from Konoha immediately followed him. They walked for about 10 minutes. The fighter stopped near a large building with the kanji 4 wind on it. This is the residence of the Kazekage. Follow me, I will take you to the elders of the village. The delegation went up to the second floor. After passing 5 offices, they stopped at a large door. An ANBU fighter pushed them. They entered a spacious hall with a high ceiling. In the middle was a round table, and behind it were 5 life-size statues. Among them, the Konoha members recognized Gaara. There were 5 people sitting at the table. The Kazekage himself was apparently absent. Welcome to Suna, the old woman said, standing up from her seat and walking towards Kushina. Kushina smiled when she saw her old acquaintance. Kushina had once learned medical techniques from this woman. Hello, Chiyasama, the red-haired woman said respectfully and bowed to the old woman. She did the same. We arrived as soon as we could. I know, Chia waved her hand and sat back down on her chair. So, let's get straight to the point. As the message said, you know that our Kazekage was kidnapped about 5 hours ago? Everyone nodded affirmatively. Okay. Please describe the attackers, Kakashi asked. The old lady looked at him and grinned. The son of Konoha's white fang, I take it? She asked, turning to Hataki. He nodded confidently. Okay. There were 3 attackers. A brunette with a Sharingan, who took out almost all of our ANBU and Jonin. Another girl helped her with this. She had blue hair with a flower woven into it. She has the genome of paper, a long-lost genome, I can tell. And a dragon. Everyone's faces lengthened. The elder only grinned. Yes, a dragon, a real dragon of enormous size. He knocked out dozens of shinobi, but at the end of the battle he disappeared into a cloud. I think it was a summoning. Yes, Chiyasama, it was a summoning, Kushina said affirmatively. My son's summoning is dragons. I know, my dear, I know. And what I didn't tell you was that our Kazekage was drawn into the fight by another person, namely Namake's Naruto. What? The Jonin students exploded. This is your son, Kushina-san. I know, she answered quietly and turned away from her charges. Okay, I guess we'll go find the Kazekage. The squad had almost left the council hall when Chia called out to them. Wait, I'll go with you. The granny said confidently. Kiba looked at her skeptically. He was never known for his manners. And now he said something he shouldn't have. Aren't you too old for this? Don't worry, grandson, the kind grandmother said with a smile. I can take out your intestines and hang you with them. All this was accompanied by an angry Kiba even turned pale. Okay, the more we talk here, the further Akatsuki will go, Kakashi said, biting his finger and making hand seals. A pug with a Konoha forehead protector appeared from a cloud of smoke. Yo, Kakashi, the dog said, raising his front paw. Kushina now understood where Hataki got these habits from. Hello, Pakken, I have business with you. And what is it? The dog raised his black eyebrow questioningly. Hataki looked at Chie. Do you have any of the attacker's belongings left? Yes, here you go. The old woman handed Kakashi a bloody piece of cloak where part of the red cloud was visible. One girl was injured in the explosion. Kushina's heart sank. I hope it's not Itachi. Okay, thank you. Hataki handed the cloth to the dog. It sniffed it, jumped off his hand and ran down the corridor, shouting as he went. Faster, the smell is getting weaker. Everyone immediately rushed after him. They ran out of the building and rushed towards the forest. The path ahead was not short, as Pakken said. And there were also traps. The biggest one was in the form of a barrier of 5 seals and was designed in such a way that it could be removed without calling a clone, only by the person who had cast it. The seal was so complex that they spent about 5 hours fiddling with it, but then, realizing that this would not yield any results, they simply tore it off and met their doubles. The fight with them lasted a long time, so they spent about 5 more hours, and then night and sleep. Meanwhile, the sealing of the one-tailed demon was taking place in the Akatsuki hideout. Since it was the weakest, it took less time, 20 hours to be exact. After such a long sealing, Naruto sat down to meditate, and the girls, leaning on each other, sat nearby and restored their chakra. Naruto had red spots on his face that looked like scales. The Sannin mode was fully activated and pumped with chakra to about the level of the 2-tailed demon, although its limit is the 5-tailed demon. Let's not forget that Naruto has an unusual and the strongest summoning. After a while, Naruto turned to the girls. We have guests. 18 people, among them I recognized my mother, Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai, and Asuma. Apparently, they are with their teams, and there is one more person I don't know, but he has a decent amount of chakra, said the blonde and turned to look at the girls. They looked worried. They did not have time to properly rest, restore their chakra, and Konan was injured, and she could not help much in the battle. Naruto looked at the almost exhausted girls and sighed. Okay, we will do this. You, Itachi, now take Konan by the arm, and you stomp to our lair, and I will hold them off. After you arrive there, let me know, I will move to you. And to make it easier for you, I will call one of the dragons to help. Naruto formed seals and hit the ground with his open palm. A summoning pentagram formed at the place of impact, and a second later 2 absolutely identical dragons appeared there, the size of a large elephant. One was black, and the other was white. Both had spikes on their tails and heads. Oh! Exclaimed the white man. Naruto, did you invite us to play? The second one echoed. Or are we going to train? The white man said again. No. Namikaze shook his head and put his hands in front of him, as if defending himself from something. I called you so that you would help these beautiful ladies. Itachi smiled at these words, and Konan blushed sweetly. Go where they tell you. Understood? Yes, Captain. The 2 representatives of the scaly ones answered in chorus and playfully saluted with their right paws. Naruto grinned, and the girls giggled. The dragons broke into a sly smile. Okay, by the way, I haven't introduced you to each other. The blonde exclaimed and turned to the girls. Itachi, Konan, these are Sentinel's children, Vaff and Fram. I like the name of this medal, they will take you to the shelter. Climb in. The girls climbed onto the dragons, and they soared into the air. Naruto was left alone in the cave with the still-living Kazekage, as he had changed the technique of absorbing the Biju, and now unsealing was done without the death of the host. Well, Gaara, shall we meet our guests? He asked the unconscious body and sat down on a stone standing near the sandstone. Naruto waited for about 10 minutes. And then, after this time, he heard the huge stone that Naruto had placed at the entrance to the cave break. Light and dust penetrated the room. The blonde made seals and blew a stream of air that drove all this trash out of sight. There were 19 people standing at the entrance to the cave. They were all looking at Naruto, sitting next to Gaara. The blonde saw his mother, whom he had not seen since joining the organization. She had not changed at all. The same red hair, only now it was curled in a high ponytail, the uniform of a Konoha Jonin, and a warm look that was hidden behind a mask of hatred. Naruto knew all the others too, except, perhaps, the granny. Namake's Naruto, SS++ class renegade of Konohagakure no Sato. I suggest you surrender without a fight and come with us, Kushina said the standard phrase. Naruto just grinned and looked down at them. What if I don't want to? We'll have to use force, Kakashi replied, although he knew perfectly well that they had no chance here. Without Minato, they wouldn't be able to lay a finger on him. Really? The blonde drawled thoughtfully. It's not interesting, I refuse. I want to see what your new generation of shinobi has learned, and you too. But 19 people against one, it's not fair, don't you think? Let's improve the situation a little? Wooden shoots began to break off from Naruto's body and fall to the ground, and soon clones appeared there. There were 9 copies in total. For each Jonin, his team and Granny, but I want to talk to Mom, so I need to keep her busy with the fight. Well, let's start the fun. Naruto shouted cheerfully and made seals. Commentary on Part 7. Sorry for the errors, but my beta disappeared somewhere, so we fix it ourselves. Beta's note, beta is back and very sorry for the delay. Part 8 Naruto stood in the middle of the cave and looked at the people gathered there, a sort of rescue group. Naruto's POV. So. Okay, the clones will deal with the rest now, but I need to take care of my mother. I'm creating 9 clones. Now I'll assess the level of training of the Konoha guys, and the experience of fighting will be useful to the Chunin and Genin. Well, let's go. Naruto POV end. Asuma only managed to hear, as he was knocked out of the cave by one of Naruto's clones. His team immediately followed him. The second clone went after them. A roar and shouts of techniques were immediately heard from outside. Kurenai screamed as she saw her lover break through the cave wall with his body and fly out. She was about to rush at the blonde, but thought better of it. Realizing that she couldn't do anything alone, Kurenai put the 2 clones standing in front of her in a genjutsu, which they dropped a second later, but that was enough time for her to get a smoke bomb and activate it. Throwing the smoking ball at the clone's feet, she beckoned her team to follow her outside. Don't you dare disobey me, Kurenai said in a commanding tone, standing in front of the cave entrance, holding her kunai at the ready to repel an attack at any moment. Her students stood behind her, their weapons bristling as well. This is not an opponent to play with. If he wants, he can easily kill us all. For now, he's just playing with us. Our first priority is to survive. Try not to get hit by his direct blows. They are too strong, just like him. Here, 2 identical silhouettes appeared in the smoke. The 2 clones were just walking for now, but a second later, the walk changed to a run and 2 copies of the blonde ran towards the 8th team, weaving between each other. Kushina stood and watched as Asuma flew out of the cave. Kurenai led her team away, her son's clone engaged Chie in combat, Team 7 and Kakashi attacked their opponent, and Guy and his student knocked the clones out of the room with a powerful jump. The woman looked at her son. He had changed in these 2 years, he had grown taller. Now he was as tall as Minato, which meant he was taller than her. His hair was long. Longer than her husband's. It fell in a spiky wave to his waist. I told you he was looking like Madara. His body had become more muscular, only his eyes had remained unchanged. The same blue pools with a spark of mischief. The woman sighed with relief when she realized that he had not lost her and had not turned into an insensitive piece of ice. But now she was on a mission and she needed to detain her son. Although she understood that they did not have enough strength for this, they had to try. Naruto, I repeat again, Kushina looked straight into the eyes of her child. Surrender. Heh. Sorry, Mom, but that won't do. Let me play with you for a bit, and then you can take your red-haired one from me, if you win, of course. The blonde grinned. The red-haired one sighed. Sorry, but you left me no choice. The woman grabbed a kunai and threw it at her son. He lazily blocked the weapon flying at him and threw his own instead. It found its target in the form of a log. The blonde clicked his tongue and turned around. The next moment he was already flying out of the cave from a powerful blow to the jaw. His mother appeared behind him and hit him. Naruto deliberately allowed her to do this, since he had to talk without extra ears. The blonde flew out into the fresh air and immediately grouped himself. Having landed on the ground, he straightened up and began to wait for his mother. She jumped out, made hand seals on the go and landed on the ground. A second later, they were surrounded by the Uzumaki clan barrier. Kushina, smiling, opened her arms. Naruto, realizing what his mother wanted, instantly found himself in her arms and buried his nose in her red hair. They, as usual, smelled of apple shampoo, which the blonde loved to sniff so much. The woman hugged her eldest son and buried her face in his shoulder. They stood like that for about 5 minutes, saying nothing and simply enjoying each other's closeness. But then Naruto broke the silence. "Mom, I'm so glad to see you. You just can't imagine how much I missed you. Only Itachi, Sora, and Shisui replaced you and your father. Lord. How's your father? How's your sister?" Naruto bombarded the woman with questions. She only smiled and rose on her tiptoes. The next second, her lips were on Naruto's forehead. She pulled away and sat down on the ground. The blonde followed his mother's example, only he lay his head on her lap, as he loved to lie down as a child. Kushina ran her thin fingers through her son's soft hair and began to play with it, giving the blonde pleasure. He purred like a cat. The red-haired woman giggled. "Everything is fine in the village. Minato is fine, still sitting with papers and other nonsense. Menma has already graduated from the academy, but failed the last Chunin exam. The village was attacked. Orochimaru and Sand united against us. Heh, how surprised the Sandmen were when they found out that their Kage was killed by the slippery Sannin. Minato and the third quickly threw him out. So now he's wandering around somewhere again. Menma recently returned from training with Jiraiya, so now she's very strong." Kushina grinned maliciously. "She'll soon catch up with you." Naruto laughed. He knew that Menma would have a long way to go before she reached his level, but no one had told her that. The blonde looked at his mother. She was sitting and smiling, looking down at him. "How is the godfather? And the godmother?" "Good. Jiraiya, as always, is hanging around the baths, and Tsunade-sama is now in charge of the medical complex." The red-haired girl looked at the explosion that sounded nearby. "Naruto, won't your clones kill them?" "No," the blonde grinned. "They won't kill you. They'll just give you a good beating, just for prevention. And the newly minted Chunin need combat experience." "Okay. Well, we need to finish our conversations, otherwise they'll suspect something." Naruto got up from his mother's lap and helped her up, giving her his hand. "Well, shall we have some light sparring? I need to look appropriate. Otherwise I'll come home all rumpled." Naruto just nodded and got into a fighting stance. Kushina went first. Having made a couple of seals, she breathed a huge stream of water at him. The blonde dodged it and began methodically pouring metal on his mother. She either dodged or simply fought it off. Then Naruto stopped and made a series of seals. A huge stone dragon rushed at the woman. Kushina's eyes widened. She had never seen such a technique before. She had to dodge, but it did not help. The dragon continued to follow the girl and did not lag behind for a second. Having decided to deal with the technique in Tsunade style, the red-haired girl punched the stone technique in the face. It took offense and fell apart into pieces. But Naruto did not stop there and continued to press on his mother. Techniques flowed like a river. The elements changed one after another. Kushina only knew how to fight them off, putting up barriers in the form of Fuin barriers and absorbers of elemental techniques. But soon they ran out and the red-haired girl had to dodge and respond with her own defensive techniques. Naruto pressed harder and harder. The last one was one technique. Futon, vacuum. Naruto shouted, and a ball without air formed around his mother's head. A few seconds later, she lost consciousness. The young man picked up his unconscious mother on his shoulder and walked towards the cave. On the way, he put a note in the hollow between her breasts, thinking that no one would look for anything there for sure, and kissed her forehead, smiling sadly. "It's okay, Mom, everything will be fine soon." And what happened to the other teams and Chie? They were all fighting on their own fields. Chie used her famous puppets, and everyone else did what they could, trying to at least touch the cheerful blonde. However, it was all in vain, since the enemy was at the level of Kage, or even higher, so. Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, and Guy with their teams tried to defeat Naruto, but they couldn't do anything. They used everything: Sharingan, clones, Tai Dash, Gen Dash, Ken Dash, Ninjutsu. Nothing helped. For Naruto, there were almost no normal opponents in this world. Only the fastest Kage, namely Minato and A, could compete with him, and also Itachi and Shisui because of their Sharingans, and Akatsuki. Almost all of them were good fighters. And here were a couple of Jonin and Genin. For him, it wasn't even funny. "Okay, time to finish with you," the clone said roughly, simultaneously receiving a mental order to wrap things up and drag them all into the cave. All teams' eyes widened in horror when elemental dragons flew at them. For every person, their own reptile. And as a result, 17 unconscious bodies. The blondes chuckled and raised all the fallen. Naruto,